Imagine a world where hospitals shut down for half the year, cremation ovens are outlawed, and farmers are forced to abandon tractors for electric vehicles. Sounds like dystopian fiction, right? Yet this is the bizarre alternate reality painted by Australian mining magnate Gina Rinehart, whose latest climate scaremongering has sparked both ridicule and concern. But here's where it gets controversial. Her claims aren't just over the top. They're rooted in a long history of denying the science behind climate change. And this is the part most people miss. Rinehart's arguments don't just misrepresent facts. They actively distract from real solutions by stoking fear. So let's unpack this. Rinehart, Australia's richest person, recently published an op-ed in the Herald Sun as part of a series of Bush summits sponsored by her companies and News Corp. In it, she warned that Australia's commitment to net zero emissions would lead to an Orwellian-style climate police state. Her examples? Hospitals closing for months due to CO2 overuse, the Royal Flying Doctor Service grounding its planes for 8 months, and funerals delayed because cremation ovens supposedly violate emission rules. These scenarios read like a satirical take on climate misinformation, but the implications are serious. Her core argument hinges on the idea that Australia didn't secure carve-outs for industries under the Paris Agreement, dooming them to collapse unless they switch to electric alternatives. However, the Paris Agreement is built on voluntary commitments, and defense emissions, like warfare-related CO2, are already exempt for reporting in Australia's 2030 targets. So who actually says climate policies will force industries to adopt EVs? No one, except, ironically, Rinehart herself. But what's really worrying farmers isn't the imagined climate police. It's the very real impacts of climate change they're already facing. In a speech at the Broome Bush Summit, Rinehart claimed farmers are suffering from net zero ideology, citing droughts, floods, and fires. The twist? Climate scientists confirm these disasters are linked to rising greenhouse gas emissions. Emeritus Professor Mark Howden of the Australian National University explains, climate change has already slashed farming productivity by 20% and is intensifying fire seasons, droughts, and floods. The worst is yet to come. Natalie Collard, CEO of Farmers for Climate Action, adds a critical perspective. Farmers aren't being forced to switch to EVs, but 55% of them see climate change as the biggest threat to their livelihoods, far ahead of bureaucracy or red tape. Her group's survey of 700-plus farmers revealed 92% had experienced climate-related impacts in 3 years alone. Yet, Rinehart's fear-driven narrative ignores these realities, instead amplifying baseless doomsday scenarios. This isn't Rinehart's first rodeo. For years, she's dismissed climate science as propaganda and funded groups like the Institute of Public Affairs, IPA, a vocal opponent of net zero goals. The IPA, which received $45 million from Rinehart's companies, promotes fringe views on climate change despite overwhelming scientific consensus. By backing News Corp's Bush summits, Rinehart has created a platform to spread her anti-science agenda under the guise of truth. So where does this leave us? Climate policy debates need facts, not fear. While valid concerns about renewable energy transitions must be addressed, Rinehart's approach replaces dialogue with distortion. As readers, we must ask, does painting a dystopian future help solve the climate crisis, or does it deepen division? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Agree with Rinehart's tactics, or do you think her strategy is a dangerous distraction? Share your perspective below.